Well, spinal breathing has been around for thousands of years in various forms, and it lends itself to many variations, and many traditions offer many variations of it. And what we do in AYP is we have trimmed out a lot of the extra things that have been added on by many different traditions, and just to get to the most basic practice of spinal breathing. And what that is it's slowly breathing a little deeper than normal and a little slower than normal. And as we do that, on inhalation, we come from the perineum, which is the place located at the bottom of the pelvic region between the genitals and the anus. We go from that point up through the center of the body, tracing a small thread-like imagined route through the center of the spine, up to the center of the head, and forward to the brow, the point between the eyebrows. And that's on inhalation. So when we're full with air, we should be at the point between the eyebrows. And then when we exhale, we go back down the same route exactly, back to the perineum again. So when we're fully exhaled, then we will be at the perineum again. And then on the next inhalation, we come up, and exhalation back down, and so on. And that's all there is to it. It sounds very simple, and I can assure you that it's very easy to make it very complicated.
And because it's so simple, actually, is so good, because often when I've had practices that are more complicated, it distracts me, and I actually get resistance.
Yeah, and even doing that simple procedure I just described, we will run into areas where we may be getting stuck coming up that spinal nerve, as we call it. We may come up and we get to the solar plexus and we're stuck, or we get to the heart and we seem to be stuck, or we get to the throat and we seem to be stuck. And what we do in the AYP method is we're very easy about it. If we're getting a little stuck somewhere, we don't force against it. We just sort of pass over it and keep going. The important thing in this style of spinal breathing is when we're full with air, we want to be at the point between the eyebrows, and when we're empty with air, we want to be back at the perineum. And how we get from one to the other should be easy. And people sometimes say, well, I can't imagine this tiny little thread you're talking about, this little nerve in the center of the spinal column. And that's okay. It's just a favoring that we do. We just favor that route.
I actually went on Google and found about 10 different pictures of the spinal cord and the medulla oblongata, just to help me, just to give me a visual.
That's good, but you don't have to follow it exactly. You don't have to follow the curvature of the spine and do all of this sort of exact microbial kind of practice. And some people may have a tendency to do that. Some people have been trained to do that in other systems of yoga. But in this system, it's just very easy. If you're not sensing that thread or having an easy mental image of it, that's okay. Just kind of come up the center of the body and end up at the point between the eyebrows. And going back down, just kind of easily go down and end up at the perineum. So there's really only 2 points where we sort of insist or how should we say, enforce ourselves to be at. And that's it. The rest is very easy. Take it easy. Don't worry about the obstructions, diversions. Or if you just forget what you're doing altogether and you're off working on the grocery list, that's okay too. Then you just easily come back and start the procedure again. It's similar to deep meditation in that sense. We favor the practice. We don't force the practice.
Right. I've been experiencing what you've written about and spoken about in your books, your audiobook, about body jolts. I'm sitting there doing my breathing, and all of a sudden, my body will just jump, like boom. And at first it scared me, because I was like, what just happened? Did I fall asleep? And it just, did I shock myself? And then I realized that what it was when I listened to your book, I was glad to hear that because then I could acknowledge, oh, well, that's normal.
Yes, it can happen. There can be a little energy build up against the resistance, and then the resistance sometimes can go quite suddenly, and there can be that sort of jump, and there can be other things going on, and that's all fine. We just take it easy, ease back to the procedure,
Uh-huh.
and it's all part of the procedure.
Yes. One of the other things that I've noticed in the practice, since doing the breath work, sometimes I get really old memories just pop right into my conscience. And I'm aware of them. I see, I remember it, and it could be something it's normally something that was sad, something that needed to be cleared out, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty common. It's really just a symptom of purification going on.
Yeah, yeah,
Which isn't to say that it's a discrete event that's going to be washed away forever, but it's sort of like peeling the onion. You're coming down into deeper levels and and penetrating some of those old obstructions that are in the nervous system, and they'll go gradually, and sometimes they go quickly, but it's not a process that we have to monitor. And if we find ourselves monitoring what's going on during the procedure, then we're really off the procedure, and we should just ease back to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important in both spinal breathing pranayama and deep meditation that we save our analysis for later.
Yes, yes.
For after practice.
Yes, just keep practicing, exactly.
Yeah. I might mention that this procedure for starting out, as I mentioned before, just a few minutes or 5 minutes starting out. Most people will have a pretty smooth start, but occasionally someone may be sensitive to the procedure, and it may be creating too much release. And in that case, the time should be reduced, which we call self-pacing in AYP. We always pace our practices, the duration of our practices, according to our experiences we're having. If we find ourselves being irritable in activity after our practices, we need to go back and say, well, am I doing too much of this? I need to scale this back a little bit until things stabilize. So the practitioner is very much in the driver's seat with these methods that we teach, and that's good because everyone is a little different.
How come the nervous system is the doorway to the divine and the bliss and infinity?
Well, the only way we can ever experience the divine is through direct experience. And the only vehicle we have on this earth is our human nervous system. And that is not only speaking of our external senses and our external capabilities, but our nervous system also offers a full range of internal capabilities which have been little known, at least in a systematized way, over the centuries. The knowledge of the inner life and the inner capabilities of the human being have been largely kept secret and taught only to a few, and now we're having that knowledge become available to everyone. And the nervous system, let's put it this way, without a nervous system, we're not here.
No.
We're somewhere else. And, where that other place may be is, just depends on your experience and your belief. But we do know that we have this nervous system, and we do know it has these inner capabilities. So that's why I call it the gateway to the divine, because the experiences that it can provide us definitely are divine, and there are many manifestations that can come out through the human nervous system.